It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 323. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Saw Disco, man.
Tam.
Hello.
Dalen.
Hey there.
So, I have definitive proof that the PlayStation 5 exists.
Oh.
It is legitimate. It is sitting on my shelf.
I still don't believe you.
Are you sure it's not a hallucination?
I don't think it's a hallucination. Also, for some reason, I've been playing Demon Souls.
Oh, wow. How's that going?
I mean, I still haven't beat the first boss, but
I hear the remake is quite good, actually.
it is gorgeous. Like, it is... I picked it up because everyone keeps saying it is the most next-gen game that's out right now. It is very, very, very pretty. And, like, it is... If it were anywhere else, I would assume it's on a PC, on a high-end PC.
Oh. I really
It's got,
need
it has significantly better draw distance than I'm used to on a console. Animations are really good. The character models aren't the fugly things that traditionally From Games has. Like, their character models are a massive step forward. I'm hoping Bloodborne gets this treatment.
I'm remembering all of the people making Shrek in that game.
Yes, lots of people have made Shrek because it is absolutely possible to make Shrek.
So, have you gotten to the first boss, or are you still just working your way through the outer walls?
I'm still wandering around.
Yeah.
Because this is a game without all the bonfires to use as shortcuts. Like, you can unlock shortcuts, and I've already unlocked a couple shortcuts.
Yeah.
I just got fire breathed on as I tried to cross a bridge, so that was my last adventure. I was fire breathed on when I attempted to loot something earlier, so, you know.
Well, that actually sounds like you might have beat the first boss.
No, I have not beat the first boss. I may have just not gone to the first boss, but because the first boss is, I guess, some kind of goo thing with shields.
Yeah, it's Legion. Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you haven't fought a goo thing with shields, then no, you haven't beat the first boss.
I mean, and I failed to kill the giant demon that sits on you.
Well, you're not supposed to kill the giant demon.
Like, people have, though.
Yes, because people are crazy about this game, but you're not supposed to kill it.
Yeah. So, like, at first I started as a soldier, and then I decided, I'm going to try something different, and I played a Temple Knight, and I like Temple Knight so far because I have a giant halberd, and I can hit things with it if I hold it two-handed. And I feel like I like the two-hander style significantly better than I liked the shield style.
Yeah, it's very reasonable.
So I have heard I'm supposed to go royalty because royalty is the easy mode, but
have you made it up to the parapets?
I don't even know. I've made it up. I've made it up and then went down a path that unlocked a short route back up.
Okay, yeah. Have you met the knight on the far end of the top area?
No, I have not met the knight on the far end of the top area. That must be where I need to go now. Cause
you don't need to go to him, but he will wreck you.
Okay. I may have met, like, it was like a red outline specter knight.
Yeah.
Thing. Yes. No, that was straight up. That was a death. That was a death. I didn't. I'm no longer going in that direction. That is not where I want to be right now. Like, I can take the blue-eyed knights, but not the red outline knights. Nope.
Yeah, that guy is there to say, hey, do you want to try something a little bit more?
Yeah, no, I do not at all right now.
That is...
Like, I am doing well enough fighting the little dregs and the dudes that firebomb me. I have gone through so much grass, it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, for whatever reason, I am enjoying myself in a way that I've not enjoyed myself in a Souls game before. And maybe it's just that it's real pretty. And maybe it's that I really like the DualSense controller. But whatever the case, I'm playing it. I mean, like, I'm not devoting a ton of time. Like, usually I'll sit down and I'll play until I die, and then I'll go do something else for a while. And I think that's in itself is helping to dilute the frustration. And like, while I'm gone, I think about what I did and where I'm going to go next, or what I'm going to do next time I play.
Oh, I'm excited to have another person playing the Souls games. I'm really looking forward to playing Demon Souls.
It is so pretty. It really is so pretty. Like,
being so pretty is going to be important, because the dungeon world, which is the one that I stopped playing on, was just miserable to look at.
Is that the Temple of Storms?
I don't believe it's a temple. It's basically like a series of like 3-layer rectangular patterns that are all like, imagine a prison where you have like an outer walkway,
right? And you've got to get keys to get between them. Yeah, no, like I did a little bit of reading, and like that was, I guess there's an early weapon you can get that's really good that's in that area, and that just sounded like madness because it was like this multi-stacked prison thing.
Yeah, no, it's unpleasant to be in. Like it's
got
PS3
2 levels.
version.
Like, it's got 2 separate zones inside of there. Like, the first one you have to beat a boss to get to the second one, and then it's more dungeon.
I could believe that.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like, I'm looking forward to getting like a Claymore or something like that and trying it in addition instead of the halberd that I'm using.
Yeah,
because like I liked the two-hander style in Bloodborne. Because, like, I use the switch axe thing the most.
I feel like Bloodborne intentionally wanted you to be playing the game more in the style that you are currently playing this game. Like, Bloodborne does not want you to have a shield. It makes a joke about having a shield.
Well, like, it feels like the answer is not to try and block things. It's just to time your attack so that it hits before the thing hits you.
Yeah, no, that's... You if you're using a two-hander, you aren't worried about trying to block things.
Like, the dudes that throw firebombs at me, I've not quite figured out how to handle that. I mean, I guess just not be there when the firebomb is landing.
I mean, you get... As we've said before, you get more like seconds when you do a dodge roll in these games.
Yeah, and it's I don't have the layout memorized enough to know exactly when I'm going to encounter a firebomb yet.
Yeah.
But like, I'm getting there with some of the packs. Like, by the time I finish this first little area, I will have probably memorized it at that point.
That is a common thing in these games.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of the thing these games want you to do, is memorize the layouts, like, through repetition.
But the funny thing is, like, now I understand why people end up looking so good at this, because they've just memorized it all. Like, oh yeah, no, I need to duck to the side here because I'm about to get attacked. And then there'll be another one behind him. And my favorite thing to do right now is to, like, let loose the boulders on the path full of things. Like, there's a path, like, along the side of the castle or whatever, and there's, like, a trough full of boulders, and you can chop the wood, and the boulders will roll and kill everything down that path. And I don't know who is putting back the boulders. Somebody is, obviously, because they're always back there.
It's the same person that resets all the traps in D&D dungeons.
And knows the lawns in Walking Dead. But yeah, no, like, I don't know why I'm playing it, but I find it entertaining. I was not nearly as impressed with the rumble functionality as I think I'm supposed to be. Like, I've never been a big rumble fan. And this is significantly better than normal Rumble, but like, it's not a life-affirming experience. The
Doesn't
Astros
sound like it.
Playroom, the Astros Playroom that it comes with is really cool, and it is basically a giant demo to show off what the controller can do. Like, you get put on a boat, and the boat has a propeller, so you have to blow on the microphone on the controller to make wind so that the propeller will go. Like, it does all kinds of little things like that.
I'm having flashbacks to the original way that you had to beat Paul's voice in Legend of Zelda in the Famicom version. Yell into the controller.
But it's
Circle.
It's kind of cool.
Wasn't there like a Zelda game you had to blow into on the 3DS too?
I think so. I kind of think maybe one of the Tingle games did something with that. But yeah, that does sound right.
The reactive triggers are really cool.
I was going to ask about those, like how those feel.
Like, it's so one of the first instances that you get to play with is like, it draws the controller on the screen for you, and as it's drawing it, you can feel the vibration moving up the controller as it slowly renders, and then like it shows you how to use the shoulder buttons as thrusters, and they have like a lot of resistance when you first press them in, and then less as you go, and then something else happens, and then it releases all the tension. And so like, it's interesting to see how they're actually adding resistance to the controllers. It will be like, I don't want to buy Call of Duty, but supposedly Call of Duty has gun jams that function that way. So it'd be interesting to see like a game I actually care about doing that thing.
Yeah, like I definitely like the idea of tactile feedback to tell me that I'm, out of ammo, gun jammed, whatever, anything like that, instead of having to recognize some visual on the screen.
It seemed there's 2 strips of light on the back of the controller, and they seem to be using those like the light on the back of a DualShock 4 to like denote status changes and things like that. It's just not as bright of a light, because like that controller light in Destiny,
it's real.
Whenever you had it was non-subtle. I don't know. Like, I played a little bit of Bugsnax, which is probably a decent segue into the next topic. Tam, you've played a lot of Bugsnax, right?
I don't know about a lot. I have played a goodly chunk of it.
Like, is it wrong that it mostly feels like Skyrim with Muppets to me?
No, that's about right.
Like, I'm not sure if I like it, but I feel like it would be a lot more charming if I wasn't deluged with other games right now.
Yeah, I can
it's kind
see
of
that.
a slow starter.
It is kind of it's a slow starter in the way that like Pokemon is a slow starter. Like, if I were to do a first person Pokemon game, it would look like this. And honestly, it feels like Pokemon Snap. Like, honestly, if you can let your mind slide past the weird food-related body horror.
Yeah.
Which is honestly, like, it's kind of charming. It's weird. Like, it's definitely a weird thing. And, like, this is a super weird conceit, but, like, nobody ever seems to mind. And, like, people who talk about it are like, yeah, it's weird, but it's pretty great. Like, check out my curly fry hands.
It weirded me out that I was squirting ketchup to lure a burger thing into a cage.
Yeah, it's great.
That was just like, okay.
Bunga, bunga, bunga,
Somebody drop some acid. I'm saying.
Is this a game that is playing things straight, though?
Mostly.
Like, so it's you're a reporter who's kind of on the outs, who reports to a J. Jonah Jameson, like, blatant cop off of that character, and like, you're kind of just there to figure out what's going on and try to interview a particular person, and you're meeting all of these other people who have like come to the island for various reasons. And it's sort of like, it's weird and whimsical, but it's also there's a lot of like it's weirdly heavy. Like there's you get glimpses into these interpersonal relationships that are like surprisingly nuanced and deep.
It reminds me a lot of Regular Show. I don't know. I mean, I assume Thalen has watched Regular Show. Maybe Kodra's watched Regular Show.
I have not.
But like Regular Show is these two characters that work at a park. And
They're total slackers.
Total slackers, and all of these fantastical things happen to them, but everyone assumes they're just like it's normal place.
Well, and also the impetus
Like-
for every single story is almost always something utterly mundane.
Right.
Like, oh no, we made a hole in the wall. We need to do something about this.
And you made dimension hop to fix the wall in the wall, but like
We gotta win the basketball game.
but the fact that like irrational things are happening seems mundane in that world, and that's kind of what's going on here too.
Yeah,
Like, everybody just knows that okay, eating this food is going to heal me, but it's also going to give me a strawberry arm.
right.
Cool.
And like it's got like I don't know, it endeared itself to me immediately with like, hey, our two of the most important characters in this are a lesbian couple, and they're just like, and the game doesn't do any, like the game doesn't comment on this in any way other than these two giant Muppet ladies are obviously together and like absolutely into one another, and that's adorable. And you like uncover more of the game through that these like they're like these surprisingly real relationships in this bizarre world, but it's woven together surprisingly seamlessly. I've run into a few bugs, and the bugs are like kind of annoying. If you're creative, you can kind of work your way out of the bounds of the game, and the game gets really sad about that, and like you can fall through the world and whatnot. But
I got stuck on a rock, and it was real annoying.
yeah. So there's a little bit of that stuff in there, but not enough to not make me want to play it, and definitely not enough for me to not know where it's going or not want to know where it's going, because it's like, okay, you've got your like cast of Sesame Street characters, but and it's easy. I feel like it would be easy to check out of the like kind of over the top Sesame Street characters as you first meet them, and then it gets really good at delivering pathos through Muppets, and also just catching random food critters is shockingly delightful, because they all have like weird little personalities. They all have things they like and don't like. They interact with each other and the environment around them. Like I was wandering through an area, and there are these little they're like hopping corn kernels, but they're too small to catch in a net. They're too small to catch in a net, but there's this like fire throwing scorpion nearby. And so if you can get them near fire, they'll pop into popcorn, and then you can catch them. But once they're popcorn, they know how vulnerable they are. So they go hide. So you got to like lure them out, but you can lure them out with butter or chocolate sauce. So you're like continually refreshing your stocks of various sauces to lure or otherwise influence these Bugsnax. Have you gotten the Strawberry Ball, Bel?
No, I haven't. I've only played until I got stuck on a rock, and then I didn't want to reset.
That's fair. It is the best. When you get it, you'll be like, "This is the best."
Does it let you play with the strawberries?
Yes. You get there's a little strawberry and a hamster ball that becomes one of your tools that you can use. And it's very, very excited because it's an adventurous strawberry.
It's interesting to me how like all these things you're talking about sound simultaneously utterly insane and completely understandable.
Yes.
It's very impressive.
Like, yes,
Okay.
This game is both of those things. It is completely insane. I am not going to gloss over that in any way.
So I've been playing this on PS5, and whenever you get one of these critters, it says its name across the microphone in the controller.
It does that on PS4 as well.
So it can talk over the microphone. Like, is there a microphone in the controller?
Yeah, Yeah, the PS4 has a microphone as well. The PS4 controller has a microphone as well. It just never got used for like basically anything.
That's weird. I did
Bugsnax
not know
uses
that.
it.
Yeah, it goes Strabby.
Yeah, they all make their little Bugsnax Pokemon noises when you catch them. It's a weirdly delightful game. I started having fun finding new various critters and figuring out how to catch them and what I can do with them and how I can make them like do weird things with the environment. Like maybe I douse my Strawberry hamster ball with chocolate sauce and use it to lure things that like chocolate around. Maybe I'll use an apple crab to catch a Pinantula.
Oh my.
It's absolutely nuts. But charmingly so. It's an incredibly charming game.
Has anyone played it on PC? Or is it something that you would not recommend there?
I mean, it's free through PlayStation Plus, so that's all I've played it on. It was that.
Oh, I didn't know you could even get it on PC. I mean, my only issue with it on PS4 is that it's got kind of longish loading times.
That is not a thing on the PS5.
I'm guessing not. I don't have an SSD in my PS4, so that's probably part of it.
That's been my biggest annoyance with Ghost of Tsushima. Is it has really long load times compared to all the rest of the games on the PS5, and supposedly they like there is a anecdote from one of the people at God, what studio is that? Sucker Punch, that they actually like made load times so that you could actually read the messages, because apparently when the patch first came out for the PS5, it was instantaneous loading, and they wanted people to read their messages on the loading screens. But like, because nothing else has load times on the PS5, it feels real weird. I don't know. Had Bugsnax come out at a time when there wasn't just this overrun of games to play, I probably would have given it more time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing it kind of casually, and it's fine for that. And I think that like I'm not sure I would call it like, oh, game of the year, but it's definitely compelling, and it's definitely like, I don't know, worth your time, I think. For as incredibly weird as it is, it's like shockingly good. And yeah, there's a bunch of other games you could play, and there's a lot of very good games you could be playing.
It has really good voice acting, I would say.
Yeah.
Because like it also has this feeling that you are on an episode of Sesame Street.
Yeah,
it's like a really weird episode of Sesame Street.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's definitely all in on its aesthetic, and that aesthetic goes through everything. Like the voice acting is great. The voice acting of all of the little Bugsnax as they get either angry that you're invading their space or terrified of you or indifferent or whatever are all like, they're all on point. All of the like talking Muppets who are apparently, I forget what they're called.
It's like Grumpuses. Yeah, Grumpuses, I think.
It's a deeply weird game, but it's also a game that like I think kids would love. Like I enjoy it, and it's the kind of thing that like I could see a kid getting really, really into.
And like it does have some adult humor, but like it's Looney Tunes style adult humor in that it's going to just go straight over the top of the head of a kid, because it requires some amount of world experience to understand what's being said.
Yeah, like your loudmouthed like news boss is C. Clumby Clumbernuts, and you know exactly what his voice sounds like from me saying that. Like you know the exact character. Yeah, it's charming. It's deeply weird, but it's like not that much weirder than Pokemon, all things considered.
I mean, it's actually less weird than Pokemon if you think about it, because like Pokemon is like, oh hey, we're gonna like have you hang out with this weird professor type dude who's gonna give you a thing and then send you off into the world when you're like 8 years old, and that's perfectly normal. So you just go venturing off into the world as a kid.
Yeah, at least your character in Bugsnax is an adult.
It has this whole, I don't know if you were getting this vibe as well, but it like almost has this whole Bioshock thing going on.
Yes.
I mean,
there's like these weird disgruntled factions of people, and you're like this neutral observer character, and you're trying to be swayed.
I mean, apparently a thing that they considered doing that they ended up cutting was effectively Bioshock plasmids, but you eat a Bugsnax and you get some superpower.
Yeah, like that's clearly a thing that is going on. Like people want to have their limbs and body parts turned into various food items because it's like beneficial to them.
But yeah, like they specifically mentioned Bioshock plasmids is what they were thinking about then. So yeah.
But there's also like this whole narrative that they're essentially defawning or flooring, no fawning, the planet. Like they're running out of Bugsnax. Like they ate them all.
Yeah, like there's a shockingly deeper story going on than I was prepared for.
And you got this farmer that's trying to be the sensible one and trying to grow something they can eat. And they're like, I don't want to eat just ketchup. There's some weird undertones on this game.
Yeah.
That are like way more serious than you think.
Yeah, it's got weird undertones that make me think that there's a twist happening somewhere that that's just going to totally blindside me because I have no idea where it's going. But like, it's one of those things where it's a little bit too consistent. I don't know if that's something that anybody else runs into when you're looking at a story, and like sometimes you're looking at a story or a game and you're like, all right, this is just trapping to get you to the next place where you're going to see other new stuff and it's just going to be like this theme park ride, versus this is like, no, we're doing something here, but I haven't quite figured out what. Yeah, everybody's weird as expected, way better than expected.
So on the topic of weird games, who's been playing Superliminal?
That's actually also me. I have a weakness for first-person puzzle games.
I do too.
Superliminal is like, what if the Stanley Parable met Portal?
Okay.
The main conceit is that perspective is irrelevant. So like, if a thing looks really big and you pick it up, it's that big. You can hold a thing up close to you and then put it down and then run over to it and jump up on it because it's big now. It's like the fastest way I've ever seen to completely mess with your sense of spatial reasoning. It's pretty neat. Like it's got clever puzzles. It's got interesting stuff going on, and it's worth watching a video on it because it's another like deeply weird game. This is like weird in a cerebral way where it's like, okay, if I stand this way, then it looks like this thing is real, and then I can pick it up because it's real. I can put it somewhere else. I can make this soda can huge and use it to push a button.
So, I saw this game in development and was interested in it, and I guess I had a hard time seeing where a lot of the puzzles would eventually take you. Does it have much of a story to it, though?
It's got a story to it.
Okay.
Like, it's a weird story.
Like, I've played first-person puzzle games that are literally just go here and solve the puzzle.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's got a structure and a narrative to it. It's very Inception.
I mean, I will probably end up checking this game out. I really like Portal, and I love Antechamber, and I like Stanley Parable.
Yeah, if you like all of those games, this is completely in that vein and is one of the better ones I've seen. Like, I actually think I like it better than Antechamber.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of in the minority of people who like that game.
I mean, I liked Antechamber. I just like other games better. I have not played... I'm trying to remember the one that I was also thinking of that's similar that I haven't played. Manifold Garden?
Manifold Garden? What is that?
Manifold Garden is another like first-person puzzle game which I haven't played, but it's a little bit more the Antechamber aesthetic.
Ah.
Whereas Superliminal is very much the Portal slash what's it called? Not Beginner's Guide. Stanley Parable aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
My big thing when I watched footage of Superliminal is it looked like it was probably somebody's tech demo that turned into a game, but it sounds like there's more of a game to it then.
Yeah, it's short in the same way that a lot of these types of games are short. And one of the things I liked about it was that it didn't overstay its welcome. Because it's really, really easy with some of these puzzle games where they just like cram more and more and more puzzles and less. And it's just like, yeah, sure, it's an interesting twist on this, but it's not getting me anywhere interesting. And I get sort of tired of it. Whereas this one, like I played it, I finished it in an evening, and it was the right amount of game. It was like, that was nuts and fun, and I'm glad I did it.
And now you can put the game away and be fine with it.
Yeah. I was like, all right, it was clever. It was clever. It did some neat stuff. I think I played it for 3 hours. I'm like, yeah, kind of short, but a fully realized thing that was pretty neat. I ran into one puzzle that stumped me for a bit. That was it. Otherwise, I mostly knew where I was going with a lot of them, but there's a lot of like random side stuff that you can find, and I definitely didn't find all of it.
So this next game I'm pretty sure I own, but I have never played. What Remains of Edith Finch?
So I had thought I'd played this game a long time ago, and it turns out, I saw Susan Arendt posted like this as a tweet about this is like the perfect game, would not change anything. I don't necessarily agree with that statement, but I was like, I thought I played that game and thought it was terrible. And then at some point I thought I was thinking of Dear Esther. It turns out I was thinking of The Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
Oh,
so,
yeah, I remember that game.
Very different game than this. This is much more directed, but I had never played it, so I picked it up and I beat it. And like Superliminal, this is a game you can beat in a night. I think it took me like 4 hours, maybe 3 hours to beat it. And it is it's like your classic sort of walking simulator. You're exploring a space and trying to figure things out as you go through that. But it's like, also like Gone Home is a story about an abandoned house in the Pacific Northwest that feels vaguely haunted, although this one feels a little bit more tied to the supernatural than that one did. Like, eventually you figured out, oh no, there wasn't anything spooky here, or there wasn't anything like supernatural, and this game feels like it's leaving you a little more ambiguous on that remark. But it's the story of you discovering all of the ways your various family members have died. Because, at least according to some, your family is cursed.
I mean, is the family cursed?
I mean, you come off pretty ambivalent on that. What, is it cursed, or is it just a self-fulfilling prophecy that you believe you are cursed and therefore bad things happen because you're trying too hard? The main protagonists of the story have varying degrees of beliefs about that statement. Your great-grandmother certainly thinks the family's cursed. Your mother does not, who is dead. I don't know. The game denies you closure to those questions in a pretty extreme way. Like, literally, you are reading the book that might give you closure, and you have it ripped from your hands right before the end of the game, and then you don't get to find that out. Which was certainly a weird thing for me when I was playing it, because I was like, I want to know, but I guess that's not the point of the game, is finding answers, as much as it is just sort of trying to become at peace with the way things are. And being at peace with not knowing.
That doesn't seem very satisfying.
I mean, this is definitely a pretty high concept game and is not necessarily going for, like, gives you a satisfying, like, catharsis. It's one of those things where I have kind of spent the last several years not playing games like this because I wasn't in an emotional state where I wanted to put up with this. And I am feeling like I'm in the emotional space where I can put up with this again. And so maybe now I'll start playing sad games again.
I mean, you do like 12 sads out of 3.
I did for a while, but I haven't played The Last of Us 2 yet. Intentionally because I didn't want to put myself in that place.
That's understandable. There's enough sadness.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to go hunting for more sadness right now.
This is why I'm playing Bugsnax.
But I'm excited for being able to, like, my emotional anxiety at least easing up on me enough that I can play games like What Remains of Edith Finch. Because I think it's a very good game.
Just not a perfect game.
I mean, again, there's definitely a lack of catharsis that makes me, in the moment, still kind of frustrated with it. I mean, this game did not make me as irrationally angry as the ending of The Beginner's Guide, playing through The Beginner's Guide for the first time. And I love that game now. Like, I am able to look back and be like, this game was a experience that I am thoroughly happy that I had, even though afterwards I was intensely upset by it. So maybe with time, What Remains of Edith Finch will enter that category of game for me.
Okay, Ghostrunner.
This is another... I played a bunch of random games this week. So, did anybody else know that there's a pretty high production value cyberpunk ninja game that's released on basically every platform?
Yes.
Because
I've not played it, but I knew it existed.
Yeah, I sure hadn't realized that. I need to spend some more time with it. It is not Deus Ex.
Okay.
Which is an important starting point, because Deus Ex is a kind of pondering, wander through the world and explore every nook and cranny, find clues, put them together, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ghostrunner has got to go fast. It's like the difference between Super Mario World and Sonic the Hedgehog. It's what I played of it was pretty fun. Because it is a very particular kind of game. Everything is a one-hit kill. You versus enemies, enemies versus you. You are very, very fast. You kind of have bullet time, which you can use to, like, dodge impossible things, and you parkour all around. So it's like, what if you played Mirror's Edge but faster as some kind of cyber ninja?
On what I've seen of it, it could almost be like a rhythm game.
Yes. Yeah. Like, it's one of those games where you hit a flow, where you definitely seem to hit a flow. And the fact that it has absolutely the fastest recovery after death that I've seen outside of Super Meat Boy tells you something about the expected gameplay loop. When you finish a level, it tells you how many deaths it took you to get there. And when I finished the first level, I had 11 deaths, which was the lowest because it also brings up, like, oh, here are your friends who played this and how many times they died. It was the lowest of my friends who had played it by about 30.
Wow.
So yeah, you could die and part of it was I understood what it was doing very, very fast, but also I died 11 times in the first level. But it's weirdly not frustrating, because it gives you, much like Super Meat Boy, it gives you little chunks that are like, execute this, figure out and execute this area, and then when you move on to the next area, it's checkpointed to the next area. And I don't know how long, I don't know if if that was just a first couple of levels thing, and if that gets worse. But it also didn't feel like I needed to be extraordinarily precise. Like, it didn't feel like it was demanding perfect execution. It was just demanding fast, decisive execution, literally in some cases. Pretty slick though. Like, it looked pretty good. It went pretty fast. It was pretty fast. There's definitely some kind of story, but not one that I was able to piece together in any way other than somebody wants me to help get them out of prison. Plus, Cyber Ninja.
I might want to, like, watch some gameplay of this just to see, like, what I'm getting myself into, because I'm having a hard time picturing it.
It has a demo.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the few games I've seen with a demo, and it looked like you could just pick up the demo.
Well, and it's also side-scrolling.
No, it's first person.
Oh, I thought it... Okay, then this is not the one I was thinking of. Because the one I was thinking of was like this, but it was a side-scroller.
It is definitely like a bunch of these games that are like side-scrollers. I have no idea who made it. I mean, there's a bunch... Like, I'm not familiar with the studio, I guess is what I was saying. But yeah, it definitely seemed like a fun... Do you want to do something action-packed and super fast sort of game?
Yeah, that sounds also up my alley.
So, random blurb. Last week I talked a little bit about the sunsetting in Destiny 2. This week they've, I guess, decided they went a little too far and have rolled back and broadened the loot pool a little bit. So that's good. Like, there's some stuff starting to make its way back in. Also, they've made it so that it is less likely that you'll get a drop that is going to sunset this season. So that you're getting the newer stuff is weighted, which probably will make it feel a little bit better that you're actually, like, starting to see some new weapons instead of the same ones that you've been seeing since, year one. And today the raid opened, and this is only of note because Wolf, who has been on the podcast a couple times, was participating in the World First grind, and they did not make World First, and I think they're still going at it right now, but they were participating in the grind for the first time. And how Bungie does one of these raid grinds is that they create a special competition mode version of the raid where everybody is power limited and some other tweaks like that to try and level the playing field so that not everybody, like, you don't have to have ground out like the absolute literal cap. You're limited at, this is basically what we're expecting someone to have as a light level for going into this place. But it was really interesting to watch, them try at the fights and work their way through it, because, like, Destiny raids are very much puzzle fights. There is some stuff that you have to figure out how to do, and then you can take down the encounter because you know how to do the things. So it was interesting to watch them reason their way through it. They were streaming it, so I watched quite a bit of it.
So they're just not sunsetting some of the gear, or are they not sunsetting some of the...
No, the content's all gone. Like, it's just
okay.
Gone. Yeah, they're not sunsetting some of the gear. Because it left some major holes in itemization, like there were no heavy machine guns at all that were dropping. The only one that survived the cut was one that was dropping from a season that was no longer available. They did put some more back in today, not today, but this week. So that helps a little bit. But yeah, so also a ton more stuff unlocked as soon as the raid opened. This has been the weirdest Destiny expansion so far, is that they've really kind of slow rolled your way through the content. So, like, there's basically a story that you beat. Then there's a long tail of stuff that happens after you beat the story. And I'm still very much in that. And a bunch of new stuff opened up today as soon as somebody took down the raid encounter for the first time. So, like, a whole new exotic quest chain opened up that wasn't available because someone had beat the content. A whole new area of Europa had opened up because someone beat the raid. So it's kind of, as far as, I mean, like, it's the equivalent of opening the gates of Encourage. Basically, the first person who did it now opened up this area for everyone else. I don't know what all's in there. Like, I went roaming around, and there's a giant exo head you can talk to. So I'm assuming more stuff will happen in there, but, like, I don't know what. One thing that I didn't cover last week, which is kind of cool, is, so one of the problems with sunsetting all of this stuff is exotics are supposed to be evergreen. They're things that, like, don't ever sunset. But there were destinations that were involved with these exotic quests, and they're now gone. You can't do the quest anymore. But every week you can start a quest from Zur, and he'll ask you to do some stuff, and you get this thing called an exotic cipher that you turn in with a bunch of materials, and the materials vary based on what it's asking you to do. And you can just get an exotic from the list of exotics that you've not already got. So that's kind of a cool catch-up mechanic for any of the ones that you happen to miss that, like, have turned out to be really good exotics. Like, I got Izanagi's Burden, which is this crazy sniper rifle that allows you to load all of your rounds into a single giant round. So, like, you can take 5 rounds, and instead of firing them one at a time, you just, like, turn them into this giant slug.
Huh.
Turning it into, like, a sort of a rocket launcher that's super, accurate. But, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad to see that they've adjusted some stuff. They adjusted a bunch of the stasis things. That caused absolute chaos in the Crucible because, like, these stasis effects were freezing people for 4 or 5 seconds. And, like, if you got frozen, you're basically dead because, like, you could break out, but it takes some time to break out, and also it damages you as you break out. So if you got frozen at all, it was basically a one-shot kill. Someone, like, it was just over. So they made it so that you only get frozen for a second if it's Guardian to Guardian combat. And then a bunch of tweaks otherwise because some of the powers were a little too strong in Crucible. The game is more in flux than I've seen it in a long time. And stasis has been really interesting. So this topic's been kicked around for a while, and I think it's a TAM topic from the giant list of TAM topics. What makes compelling world building?
This is a thing I am continually fascinated by, partly because I do a lot of work writing my own worlds, but also, like, I don't even remember what game I was playing that made me think of this one. But right now, I'm thinking about it again because I'm playing Disco Elysium.
Uh-huh.
And before that, I mean, like, it's just a continual chain of games where it's like, oh, this is a world that's really compelling that I want to know more about. And I'm always interested, like, I have some thoughts on what makes those compelling for me, like what makes, Disco Elysium or even Bugsnax into a compelling piece of world building that I want to know more about versus, games that don't. And just, like, I'm curious what other people think about what draws other people into that, like what gets people excited about finding out more about a world.
I apparently really like obtuse worlds because, like, I love the world of Destiny, and I don't care that I have to dig enormous amounts to find out what's going on. But I'm also kind of feeling the same way about the Dark Souls, not Dark Souls, but Demon Souls world. Like, there's some stuff going on there, and I don't know what the hell's going on, but I kind of want to find out about it.
Dark Souls and Demon Souls definitely have weird, obtuse worlds.
Well, like, to me, they're very similar to Destiny in that there's clearly something going on, and it has purpose, but, like, the game isn't going to tell you anything about it.
I mentally imagine a bouncer that's like, nope, you're not getting in here unless you figure out a way past the bouncer.
That's really what those games are like. And for whatever reason, that amount of friction makes me want to go, like, learn about it.
See, I think for me, the two things that I really need are, I need the game to tease that there is, in fact, something to learn, that, that there is something to look into. And I need the game to show me that my efforts to try and learn more will actually be rewarded, which I think Disco Elysium did a very good job of that very, very quickly. In the course of getting out of the first room and talking to the first NPC you run into, it becomes very clear that this is a weird world and there's a lot to learn about it, and that the mechanics of the game absolutely lend themselves to you learning a lot.
Yeah, Disco Elysium is definitely a game that wants to marry the discovery of, the world is a mystery and you are going to get to discover it slowly over time, and that is also the mystery that you are solving in the game. You're solving many layered mysteries, and one of them is, what is this world like?
Yeah, and I think that I have a similar thing to what Thalen was saying, where I want for me it's I think three things. I need however I'm experiencing the world, whether it's a book, whether it's a game, whatever it is, I need to feel like it needs to give me a little bit to latch onto. If it just shuts me out entirely, I check out and I'm not interested. But if it's hey, here's a couple of interesting things to latch onto, and maybe here's some strings that you can pull and follow to see where they go. I need that. And I need to feel the big one for me is I need to feel like the world is bigger than one story.
Yeah.
Because there are a bunch...
it needs to feel like an actual world where there's other stuff going on too.
Yeah.
That doesn't directly relate to what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing for me, is that for me to care enough to start trying to learn more about a world, the world needs to feel alive and full in the first place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned books, and a book series that that whole wanting to learn more about the world is honestly a lot of why I kept reading it. There's other good stuff about it too, but the Malazan books, this is a series of 10 incredibly thick fantasy books, and you are dropped into the first one with basically no notion of what's going on, and the author very explicitly avoids the whole let's have characters talk about things that everybody knows for the benefit of the reader. And so it's just this slow trickle of information, and to me that was fascinating, and I just kept wanting to get more little pieces and start linking them together and figuring things out. And I got to about around the fourth book and was rewarded with, I reached the point where I had enough stuff that I could link it all together and figure out what the hell was going on.
Well, and Dune is a lot that way as well, because Dune has its own language, and sure, it eventually ended up with a glossary in the back of the book, but it is unapologetic when you're trying to figure out what all's going on. Yeah,
and with a good author, they give you enough that you can figure things out by context and put things together. I think that's the biggest thing, is it has to be, whatever it is, book, game, movie, whatever, has to be written in such a way that I am being given information that I can then, tie to other things that I already know. I feel like China Mayville's stuff is the same sort of thing. Perdido Street Station, so much of that is figuring out what the hell is going on with this world that this is set in, because it's real weird.
It's real
yes,
weird.
It is.
Yes. And you also feel like that's a big world that's alive with a lot of stuff going on in it.
Yeah, that entire story is set in a single city, and there's clearly so much more out there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about MMOs a bit here too, and I'm mentally comparing WildStar and Rift, because WildStar, you're on one kind of backwater planet, and the game sure seems to insinuate that there's a lot more out there. You're just seeing one little slice of it, an important slice, but definitely not the only thing.
Yeah, and it rewards you over time with interesting story, but the process of getting there, the world still feels full and alive. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head, but I know that I've experienced media where, there may be a good payoff at the end, but I have given up before I get there because the intermediate steps are not compelling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was actually you. I'm right there with you. That was the third thing, was that I feel like there needs to be a path I can follow and not just a wall that I have to scale. And part of the reason that I've been thinking about it is because I've been running tabletop games for more or less unbroken for the last 15 years, something like that. And I almost exclusively use homebrew worlds that have the stories in them. And one of the things that I took a break over the last few months. And one of the things that I've been doing was digging up old notes, and I kept realizing that I had made all of these worlds for one story, and then they weren't compelling to return to because their story had been told already. And I realized that I've been creating the same kinds of settings that annoy me. It's going to sound like sacrilege, but one of the settings that people love that I just don't is Lord of the Rings. Because I feel like it exists for one story.
Yeah, I get that. There's definitely, where else can you go after the Lord of the Rings is done?
Yeah.
That's a problem that the current owners of the MMO are running into.
Yeah, I mean, literally nowhere. Because, the book is written such that you can go literally nowhere with it.
And I mean, I think it's telling that some of the best Lord of the Rings related games that have been made have played somewhat fast and loose with the story.
Yeah.
The Shadows of Mordor stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and so that's been part of the thing that I've been doing is trying to build something, trying to build a setting that is interesting enough and has enough going on that I can tell multiple different stories in it and keep it interesting and keep it relevant without it being just without either making things too small or boring, but also without just consuming the entire world in one story and then being done with it. And one of the things that I realized about it was that a lot of it is, I feel like these places have history, compelling worlds have history.
Yeah.
They also have to have a future.
Yes. They need to have come from somewhere, and they need to have somewhere interesting to go. And going back to Disco Elysium, it's really, really interesting to me how much narrative the game spends on random historical facts. But it's really, really important to sort of setting the stage for things that are going on.
Even if you're kind of brushing through things, you start to get the history pretty quickly.
And
you have to know the political factions that existed, who's in charge, what their motivations are, and because it ties directly into the current events.
Yeah. And I think about different worlds. Another one, I'm thinking Star Wars Episode 4 touches on a whole bunch of history that it doesn't really explain in much detail.
Yeah, and in some cases, it was possibly better off left unexplained. But it's it very quickly, I mean, almost from the very beginning of the movie, makes you feel like this is a world, this is a universe that has existed. A lot of stuff has happened, and we're coming in, in the middle of this.
Yeah, I was watching Star Trek The Next Generation, and I had forgotten that it opens up with an episode that is in part a history lesson.
Yeah.
That's scene setting for Star Trek as a universe.
Oh, it's weird to think that that was at a time where Star Trek wasn't the cultural powerhouse that it finally became. I mean, it was big in nerd circles, obviously. Trekkies / Trekkers had been a thing forever, but there had been 3 episodes of a TV show and then a couple of movies that only one of which was any good. So I'm not surprised they felt like they need to reintroduce the entire concept.
Yeah. Well, and what was it? 15 years later or something?
Like, I guess 2 of which had been any good, because Star Trek 4 had happened by that point, because that was 86. But yeah, so, it had been 20-something years since the original had been canceled.
Yeah.
And then, like, ever since then, we've had Star Trek on television more often than not in the past 30 years.
Huh. I guess that's true. I haven't really kept up with Star Trek. There's a lot of Star Trek shows I have not kept up with.
Yeah.
Not all of which have been created equal.
I mean, they have been of varying levels of quality and interest to me personally. I don't know that any of them have been truly bad, but I've certainly liked some of them more than others.
I mean, honestly, like, if I'm going to say probably my least favorite was Enterprise.
Enterprise took some time to get its feet and figure out what the hell it wanted to do with itself. And it had some good moments in there. But it's probably at the bottom of my list. Obviously, Deep Space Nine is at the very top because it is the best Trek.
Voyager is a very uneven show.
Voyager is brilliant when it's brilliant, but it also has the episode where Tom and Janeway turn into space salamanders.
This is sort of like the Star Trek thing that you.
I think it's required for every Star Trek series to have at least one just utterly awful episode that everyone agrees we should all just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Move along home.
Well, and it's one of the things, like going back to the world building thing. I realize how much of that isn't explicit. Like, there's a lot of Star Trek background that is not explicitly told anywhere.
Yeah.
Which, like, as a creator, gets me thinking about how much less I should tell.
Yeah, you can do a lot with just showing how things work in this world and letting people draw conclusions from that. Because, I mean, so much of what we knew about the Federation, from the original Star Trek and from Next Generation, really was put together just by looking at, okay, these things exist and these characters has these things about it, and how does that all fit together? Like, what would that look like? And I know that's something that I really enjoy doing. It's like I enjoy being dropped into the middle of a setting and just seeing how things work and putting information together about what is this world? Where am I?
I do think that there's a little bit of a medium issue. Like, having the less is more approach works very well in, like, TV shows and stuff, but in an RPG world, you kind of have to contend with players saying, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting, I want to know more about that.
Well, yeah, and when they do that, you can then give them ways to find out more information about that.
Yeah.
And hopefully what you give them is consistent and stays consistent, because there are definitely MMOs that feel a little retconned after several years, and that is not conducive to me buying into the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, case in point, Shadowlands is a giant retcon of a book that Blizzard released saying, this is the canon now, and it is no longer the canon.
What?
They released, like, this WoW Atlas or whatever, that basically, like, set up the cosmology of the world, and they've already decided to break that cosmology.
Yeah, and so if you feel invested enough in a world to buy a fancy book and read it in your own time, separate from playing the game, and then it gets completely retconned out of existence, it doesn't feel super great.
Yeah. This is why I'm always so happy when little things show up in Final Fantasy XIV that, like, it's like, oh, that's a reference to this thing from the encyclopedia. Archon toast. It all fits together.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, like if they started just like completely retconning things that they established in the encyclopedias, like that would feel a little bad. It's like, okay, yeah, I know you didn't say any of this stuff directly in the game prior to this, but you put it in this big fancy book that your biggest fans bought. So
I'm more
also Shardbert.
Oh my god.
I'm more annoyed by that when it's like something like an atlas or an encyclopedia or something that's made for the game. It's like, look, I don't buy many textbooks to begin with, and the fact that I bought textbooks for places that don't exist is borderline madness to begin with. Like, at least keep it consistent.
Yeah. I guess
Like,
that's another important thing is I need to feel like that they're playing fair.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't mean they can't give me inaccurate information, but I feel like they need to know that what they're giving me is inaccurate and be doing it intentionally, not just like, oh no, that doesn't work anymore, so let's do this instead.
Yeah.
Yes. WoW's answer to this is, oh, that book was from the perspective of the Titans. They didn't know.
Oh, jeez.
Of course.
Bizarrely, I actually feel like this is one of the, I mean, and obvious bias admitted here. This is one of the reasons why I feel like the Elder Scrolls series manages things so well, is because they're super upfront about how nobody who has written anything ever or tells you anything ever necessarily either is trustworthy or has the full picture.
Yeah, it helps when all of your godlike beings are like on a range of entirely utterly evil to completely untrustworthy. So anyone with the omniscience to actually know, you can't trust what they're telling you, and everybody else, they're just working off what they can see. I'm cool with that.
The only thing that you can know happens in the world of Elder Scrolls is what happens directly to you in the games of Elder Scrolls, right?
Which are then debated
And even then.
in later games.
Well, and that's honestly like one of the things that's happening in Destiny right now is we have all this knowledge that's been given to us by the darkness, one of two forces that would have been around at the beginning, and this is from the perspective of the darkness. So it is very clear that this is an untrustworthy narrator. Of course it's going to paint the light in a specific way.
Like I feel like kind of a similar thing is happening in Guild Wars 2 right now, because they just dropped the latest chapter of the Icebreed Saga, which, among other things, added in the voiceover that was left out of the previous couple of chapters. It's very good voiceover. It's worth getting caught up. But like without getting into major spoilers, like we're having some conversations with Jormag, and Jormag is a giant ice dragon that has been a real problem in the past. So, but she's real, or they're real compelling, and the things they're saying seem reasonable. So, but how much can we trust this?
I mean, at the same time, it's coming from a dragon directed at somebody who has made a hobby of killing dragons.
Mm-hmm. Like they've got a horse in this race, like, and their whole thing has always been manipulation. I don't know. Let me tell you, there are some tensions among the members of Dragon's Watch right now.
Are there ever not? Yeah, I really need to catch up with that now that they've updated the voice acting, because that's another world where like there's a lot going on.
And I've honestly been real impressed at how consistent they've managed to remain, and how they've managed to bring in stuff from Guild Wars and not contradict, as far as I'm aware, not contradict information from the original Guild Wars. And yeah, and like we were saying before, it does feel like there's more. Like, obviously the stuff that we're dealing with is usually the most important thing going on at the time, since you're, killing dragons and gods and things. But there's other stuff going on.
Usually while we're not paying attention.
It's true.
The next conflict is happening.
Another game recently that I was really impressed by the world building and wanting to learn more about what is really going on is Hades.
Oh yeah.
Like, they did an amazing job of taking established Greek mythology and then grafting a story onto that, like, is a really compelling mystery, and with stuff that I want to know more what's going on.
And consistent with all of the other mythology, too.
Yeah. Like, yes, characters don't necessarily act the way they did in the original stories about them, but, you know, in some cases, these people have been dead for who knows how long and had some time to think about things. In other cases, all the stories were being told by mortals based off of what they learned, and maybe they just didn't know the whole story. And
sometimes you feed a bunch of lies to an incredible singer that captivates people with their dialogue, with their stirring ballads.
That too. I did very much enjoy when I finally had the conversation. Just like, you're not really telling everybody all these things, right? I'm just joking.
You're too humble.
Well, that's probably a show. Unless anybody has any other quick comments.
DuckTales is great. Watch DuckTales.
DuckTales is great. Woo!
Animaniacs is also great.
Animaniacs is also great.
I've been seeing people online going from concerned that this is not going to live up to it to, oh my god, this is better than the original.
I've only watched one episode. I don't know if it's better than the original, but it sure is good.
Same. I've watched the first episode, and I am 100% excited to watch the rest of them now.
Yeah, I need to finish the first episode.
I've not watched all of the first episode, but I have watched the catch-up song.
They got me with the updated theme song. Like, the updated theme song, I was like, wait, this is great.
Yeah, I also saw a lot of people say, are they being mocking or being legit in the theme song? And be like, okay, I've watched the episode now. They're being legit.
I mean, also Mandalorian keeps being awesome, so
Mandalorian is also good.
It's true.
This is the way.
I've been watching a lot of Hilda getting ready for the next season to drop, finally. TV's good. Or what is TV nowadays?
I watch it on my TV.
Yeah. I mean, I sometimes watch it on my TV. I sometimes also just stream it on the second monitor. While we're talking about things before we close this off, I don't know if any of you know who the comedian Ashens is. He is a YouTuber, and his thing is he reviews bad knockoff products. He is hilarious. However, there's apparently 2 movies that he has released. One that came out in 2013 that I did not know about. One that just came out. They're kind of in the Simon Pegg movie genre. In fact, it jokes that he looks a lot like Simon Pegg. The first one was Ashens and the Search for the GameChild, which was apparently an early Game Boy knockoff. And then this latest one is Ashens and the Polybius Heist. And they're both excellent. I highly recommend looking them up. They're kind of like a comedy James Bond thing. They're amazing. Anyway, I guess that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, man. I got to say see ya.